So then the last day of my holiday, Wednesday, I went to the Empire State Building, which is where I got this guy here. He's been sitting here throughout my whole video. You can't really see it, but he's wearing an Empire State Building t-shirt, and he is, of course, a gorilla, like King Kong. I bought him from the Empire State Building. He's brilliant. The Empire State Building cost me a lot of money. It's a comparable ticket price to the observation deck on the Rockefeller, because the Empire State Building does have an observation deck, if you weren't aware of that. It's a comparable price to get up to the 86th floor. I think it's the 86th. If you want to get up to the very top floor, the 102nd, you have to pay an additional $15. So let me start with the lobby first. Even if you're not going up to the observation deck, definitely go and see the Empire State Building. See the outside of it, take some pictures, say you've been there. Go into the visitors lobby, where they've got some really nice Art Deco work, and when I was there they had some nice Christmas displays as well. From there you can go up to the observation deck area, purchase your ticket. You can have a souvenir photo taken if you want to, and then you get up to the observation deck. When I was there, it was relatively early morning on a cold day, and it was pretty empty. But I've heard that the lines for the Empire State Observation Deck can get pretty horrific, so you might want to look into taking their fast track ticket, where you pay extra and can jump to the front of the queue, or maybe just do as I did, go in a sort of off-peak time. I think it probably gets quite full after dark, because obviously people want to see the city when it's all lit up at night. But I did that with Rockefeller, where the lines are nowhere near as bad at any time. Views from the observation deck, absolutely brilliant. Obviously you can't see the Empire State Building from the Empire State Building as you can from the Rockefeller. But you do get some really, really good views. You can see right over to New Jersey. And then if you pay extra and go up to the 102nd floor, you do genuinely notice that you're higher up. I mean, you might think possibly that at that height anyway, you wouldn't really notice much of a difference. You do. You do genuinely see that you are higher up. But as for whether it's worth the extra $15, which is going to be a lot of extra money if there's more than one of you, then possibly not worth paying the extra to go up there, because it is the same view, it's just from a slightly different vantage point. As for whether you should do the Empire State or the Rockefeller, if you're only going to do one or the other, I would say do the Rockefeller. Get down to the Empire State, see the lobby, see the building, but for the observation deck, I'd say go to the Rockefeller, because from the Rockefeller, you can see the Empire State Building. From the Empire State Building, you can't even really see the Rockefeller, because it looks a lot like a lot of other buildings. It doesn't really stand out so much. Plus, the lines at the Rockefeller are a lot less, so you'll probably get up there a lot faster. Gift shops. The Rockefeller gift shop, I think, is a little cheaper, possibly. I don't really remember, but I think it was cheaper than the Empire State Building gift shop. The Empire State Building gift shop is horrifically overpriced. This guy was very, very expensive. I bought him because I knew I'd really, really regret it if I didn't. But you know, you're talking like $15 for a pot of sweets in the Empire State Building gift shop. Very, very expensive. So do consider whether or not you really want to pay those prices. So before I go, a few last words on dining and on expenses. Dining, I want to talk about 3 places. If you like Japanese food and you want somewhere quick and relatively cheap, go to Go Sushi. This is on West 51st Street, about a minute's walk from the Washington Jefferson Hotel, and it does absolutely amazing food. They do bento boxes, which they're about $17, but you get a huge amount of food for that. I I barely managed to eat it all. I think you could probably share it between two of you. You get miso soup and tempura and sushi and rice, and you get a drink. It was absolutely gorgeous. Really, really good food. Uh, Great place. Definitely recommend going to a branch of Go Sushi. Restaurants. There are two that I want to talk about in particular: Ruby Foo's and Planet Hollywood, both in Times Square. They were the major restaurants that I ate at whilst I was there. Ruby Foo's. The food is quite nice and it's a reasonable price considering where it is. Times Square, everything's a pretty elevated price anyway. But it wasn't too badly priced, I found. However, I felt the service was lacking somewhat. I got the impression that my waiter was not particularly enamoured with me, and that he thought that taking a look at me, because I was dressed casually, other people in the restaurant were dressed casually too. It wasn't like it was a big dress-up restaurant or anything. But he seated me over in a corner, hidden away from everybody else, and it was obviously not too bothered about serving me. He did serve me. He did an adequate job, but it was kind of lacking the smile that you would expect. I definitely got the impression that he thought that I wasn't the kind of person to give a big tip, and therefore he wasn't going to really try. So in some kind of ironic, non-evil revenge, I gave him a relatively big tip. When he saw it, he looked a little bit contrite, but didn't offer me any change. On the other hand, Planet Hollywood, great atmosphere. You can see props from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Staff are very friendly. Food was great. They seated me at the bar because I was just one person and they were quite crowded, so they didn't want to give me a whole table. That was fine. But even being seated at the bar, I was given very good service. I wasn't forgotten about in any way. My food orders were taken quite promptly. The food arrived quite promptly. I had really good service from the barmaid, who I think her name was Kayla or Krista, something like that. She was a really fantastic person, very fun, very friendly, very attentive, made a great cocktail. Because I had a very positive experience in there, and I didn't just eat in there, I stayed most of the night in drinking and watching American football as well. I did give her a very big tip, and unlike the guy in Ruby Foo's, she tried to give me change. And when I said, no, it's fine, you keep it as your tip, she tried to give me a souvenir glass. And I said, no, it's fine, you keep it. And she's like, anything you want another drink for free, absolutely anything, you just let me know. She was really, really great. Definitely far better service than in Ruby Foo's. I would really, really recommend going to Planet Hollywood in Times Square and sitting at the bar and having a drink from their lovely bar staff. And just a final word on expenses. New York is an extremely expensive city. Hotels cost an absolute fortune. Food costs a fortune. Gifts cost a fortune. Everything is very, very expensive. Do not expect to be able to do New York particularly well on a budget, because you will miss out on a lot of the stuff that you should be doing when you're there. In terms of putting a number on it, one person doing quite a lot of stuff, managed to get through nearly $600 of spending money in a week. It was expensive, so do look into prices and do budget properly for this holiday. Do not think that you're going to be able to get away with spending a very small amount, because you're not. Like London, it is a very pricey place to be, especially if you're going to be doing all the touristy stuff. But it is a great place. It's iconic, it's fun, there's so much to do. I really, really recommend visiting New York if you get the chance. So I hope I provided at least some useful information for you. And King Kong here says goodbye.